It was a moment I never expected, a quiet evening, just the two of us at home when everything shattered. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to relax after a long day at work. Olivia had gone to take a shower, and everything felt normal to normal. But then her phone buzzed on the coffee table. I'd never been one to invade her privacy, but for some reason that night I couldn't stop myself. A feeling of dread crept up my spine as I glanced at the screen. Dylan's name flashed up, a text message from him. "I can't wait to see you tonight, just like last time." My heart skipped a beat. I didn't think, just picked up the phone, unlocking it without hesitation. The message was there, clear as day, along with the others. "I miss you. It feels so good to be with you when Jason's not around." The words pierced my chest and I froze. My stomach churned. I could feel the walls closing in on me. I'd known something was off for a while. Livia's late nights, her excuses, the cold distance between us. But this was real. This was the proof I never wanted to see. The bathroom door creaked open. Livia stepped out, her wet hair dripping onto the towel she wrapped around herself. She flashed a smile, unaware that the storm was already here. The sight of her, so innocent in her demeanor, hit me like a slap to the face. How could she? I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't. My voice felt stuck in my throat. Instead, I held up the phone. She froze. "What's this?" I asked, my voice thick with disbelief. She blinked, looking at the phone, then at me. Her face drained of color, and for a split second, I saw panic flash across her eyes. "Jason, it's not what you think," she said, her voice quivering. "Not what I think." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "You think I'm stupid? You think I didn't know something was going on?" She stepped closer, reaching out, but I pulled the phone away. "Don't touch me," I said coldly. "How long has this been happening, Olivia? How long have you been seeing him behind my back?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She took a step back, her hands trembling. I didn't mean for this to happen, Jason." "No," I cut her off, my voice shaking with restrained rage. "You didn't mean for it to happen? You were so careless that you thought I wouldn't notice? That I wouldn't see the lies piling up?" "I'm sorry, Jason. I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice breaking, but the sincerity was gone. The words felt empty. I couldn't believe anything she said anymore. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I trusted, was gone. I shook my head. "You think saying sorry is going to fix this? You think you can just apologize and everything will be okay?" Tears started to well up in her eyes. "Please, don't do this. Don't leave me, Jason." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but it didn't help. The weight of everything she'd done pressed down on me, and I knew, in that moment, I could never go back. "I want a divorce," I said, the words leaving my mouth with finality. Her face crumbled. She reached out to grab my arm, but I pulled away. "You've made your choice, Olivia. Now I'm making mine." She stared at me, her expression flickering between disbelief and desperation. "No, Jason, don't, please. You don't know what you're doing, but I did. I knew exactly what I was doing. I was walking away from a life that was built on lies. I was done. I've been patient. I've been understanding. But this is it. I'm done." I turned, leaving her standing there, broken. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The woman I loved was gone, and all that was left was the wreckage she'd created. I had nothing left to give her. I didn't know what was next for me. But I knew this was the beginning of something new. It had to be. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, her face flashed in my mind, her sweet smile, the way she held my hand, all of it now stained with lies. I'd been numb all evening, walking around in a daze. But now, as I sat on the couch in my empty apartment, it hit me. I had been living in a fantasy. Olivia wasn't the woman I thought she was. I stared at the divorce papers on the coffee table, but I wasn't ready to sign them. Not yet. There was still too much left to untangle. Still too much to process. I picked up my phone, expecting to see more messages from her, and I wasn't wrong. The first one that popped up was from Olivia. "Please, Jason, we need to talk. I never meant to hurt you. I love you. Just let me explain." I scoffed and put the phone back down. I couldn't bring myself to respond. She was still trying to deny it. She wasn't sorry. She was just scared. I threw the phone aside and stared at the ceiling, thinking of everything that had led to this moment. How could I have been so blind? How many times had I ignored the little things, the late nights, the excuses? She had been slipping away from me for months, and I never saw it. The phone buzzed again. Another message. Jason, please, I'm so sorry. Please don't do this. What was there to say? What explanation could she possibly give that would make this okay? I stood up and walked to the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water. My mind kept spinning. What was I supposed to do now? I had to talk to someone, get some advice. I needed to move forward, but I didn't know how. I grabbed the business card from my lawyer's desk drawer and dialed the number. Tom O'Connor, a deep voice answered on the second ring. Hi, Tom. It's Jason Carter. I need to talk about a divorce. There was a brief pause before he replied. Of course, Jason. I'll be happy to help. We can schedule a meeting tomorrow if you'd like. Can you make it today? I asked, my voice a little harsher than I intended. Absolutely. I'll clear some time for you. Come to my office in an hour. I hung up, feeling a little lighter. At least I was doing something. I wasn't just sitting here, wallowing in my pain. I was taking control. The next few hours passed in a blur. I avoided all of Olivia's calls, all of her messages. I couldn't listen to her apologies. It was too much, too soon. She didn't deserve my forgiveness yet, not after what she did. At Tom's office, I sat across from him, trying to focus as he talked about the legal process. I barely heard him. My mind was still on Olivia, but I had to push her out of my head. I had to. You've made the right decision, Jason, Tom said, snapping me back to the present. There's no going back from this. It's time to start fresh. I nodded, still processing the words. I know, but it's hard. I don't even know who she is anymore. Tom sat back in his chair. You'll figure it out, but this is your life now. You're doing the right thing by moving forward. I'll make sure the legal side is taken care of. You're not alone in this. I smiled faintly, appreciating the reassurance, but it didn't make the pain go away. It didn't stop the ache in my chest every time I thought about Olivia. When I left his office, the sun was starting to set. I was exhausted, mentally and physically, but there was no time to rest. I had to keep going. I couldn't let Olivia drag me down anymore. She made her choices, and now it was my turn to make mine. I didn't know how to feel about the divorce. Part of me was angry. Part of me was devastated. But another part, an unfamiliar part, felt relieved. I was finally free. That night, Olivia sent me one last message. Jason, I never wanted this. I love you. Please don't leave me. You're everything to me. I didn't respond. I was done listening to her. I needed to focus on myself now, on moving on. I couldn't believe I was doing this. But as I stared down at the divorce papers in front of me, the weight of the decision finally settled in. This was real now. No more running away from it. I was done with the lies, the betrayal. Done with Olivia. I picked up the pen and signed my name. It felt almost ... mechanical, like I was signing a contract, not ending a marriage. But it was over. It had to be. The phone buzzed on the table, and I already knew who it was. Olivia. Again. I didn't even look at the screen. I just reached for my coat, grabbed the papers, and headed out the door. The ride to her place felt longer than it should have. My thoughts kept drifting back to that night, to the moment I saw the truth laid out in front of me. Olivia had been everything to me, and now she was a stranger I used to trust. When I reached her apartment, I took a deep breath before knocking. My heart was pounding, but I knew what I had to do. No turning back. She opened the door, looking just as beautiful as the day I met her, but I wasn't fooled anymore. This time, her beauty didn't mask the deceit that lay beneath. Jason, she said softly, her voice trembling. I wasn't expecting you. She looked at the papers in my hand, then back at me, her expression uncertain. What's this? I didn't waste time. It's the divorce papers, I said, handing them to her. I'm done, Olivia. Her eyes widened in shock, then quickly filled with tears. She took the papers, holding them as if they were some fragile thing that might break if she touched them too hard. No, she whispered. No, Jason, please, don't do this. She reached for my arm, her fingers trembling. Please, we can fix this. I can make it right. I pulled back, not wanting to feel her touch anymore. Can't fix this, I said, my voice flat. You made your choice when you decided to betray me. There's nothing left to fix. Her lips trembled, and she tried to meet my gaze. I was confused. I never meant for things to go this far, but I love you, Jason. Please, just give me one more chance. I felt my chest tighten. There it was again, the same excuse she used the night I found out. Love, I shook my head. You don't get to say that, not after what you've done. I didn't mean to hurt you, she pleaded. Like you're everything to me. I'll do anything to make it right. I closed my eyes for a second, feeling the sting of her words. I had to remind myself why I was here. I couldn't let myself fall back into her trap. You don't get it, Olivia. You already hurt me. You've been hurting me for months, I said, my voice growing steadier. This ... This isn't something that can be fixed with a please or a sorry. She stepped closer, desperation in her eyes. I'll change. I'll do whatever it takes to prove I'm sorry. I looked at her, but I felt nothing. Love, no anger, just a deep, aching emptiness. I'd already gone through all the pain I needed to. I wasn't going to keep doing it. You don't get to make promises anymore, I said, finally stepping back. I've heard all the excuses. I've seen all the tears, but none of it changes the fact that you lied to me. You betrayed me, and I'm not going to live with that. Her face fell, and she looked down at the divorce papers in her hands. So, this is it? She whispered. You're really leaving me? I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the words, but not the pain I thought I would feel. Yes, it's over. For a moment, she just stood there, staring at the papers, her hands shaking. The tears were still falling. But now they seemed more like a final attempt to hold on to something that was already slipping through her fingers. I turned to leave, but she reached out and grabbed my wrist. Jason, please, she said again, her voice breaking. I love you. Don't walk away from me. I glanced at her once more, but it was too late. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to feel. I'm sorry, I said quietly, the words tasting like ash in my mouth, but I'm already gone. I didn't wait for her to respond. I left the apartment, closing the door behind me, feeling an unexpected sense of relief. It was done. The first few days after I handed her the divorce papers felt like a blur. I stayed busy, keeping my mind off Olivia and what had just happened. I'd always been the kind of person who buried my feelings in work, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't want to think about the betrayal. I didn't want to think about Olivia, but she didn't make it easy. Her calls started coming in the moment I left her apartment. Every time I looked at my phone, her name flashed across the screen. At first I thought about picking up, maybe hearing her out one last time, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. She had broken everything, and there was no way to fix it. I didn't return her calls. I didn't send any texts. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of thinking I was still hanging on. By the end of the week, I could tell she was starting to spiral. I'd seen the signs before, the frantic, obsessive behavior that always followed when she was losing control. I saw it in the way she sent me messages, how they became more frantic, more pleading, and less coherent. At work, she had already started to feel the fallout. The colleagues I knew at her office reached out to me, some even out of genuine concern, but others just to get the scoop. Word had spread fast, and I couldn't blame them. Her affair had become the office gossip. I got an unexpected text one evening, and when I opened it, I saw a picture of her at work. She looked pale, her eyes red from crying. It wasn't just the affair anymore. Her entire world was falling apart. Jason, please. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I don't know what to do anymore. I stared at the screen, the words staring back at me, but I didn't feel anything. No anger, no sorrow, just nothing. She had made her choice. I put my phone down, trying to ignore it, but my mind kept circling back to her, how she had been so desperate for my forgiveness. How she had thrown away everything we built, and now it was all crumbling for her too. A few days later, Olivia showed up at my apartment. She knocked lightly at first, as if unsure, then more forcefully, when I didn't answer. I didn't want to open the door. I wasn't ready to face her, but I didn't have a choice. The knock came again, louder this time. I stood there for a moment, my chest tight, but then I walked over and opened the door. There she was, standing in front of me, a mess of emotions. Her face was pale, eyes swollen. She had been crying for days. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice broken, desperate. I didn't invite her in. I didn't even step aside. I'm not interested, Olivia. Please, Jason, just hear me out. She stepped forward, her voice cracking. I know I've made mistakes. I know I've hurt you. I've lost everything because of what I did, and now Olivia, I cut her off, my voice firm. You don't get to come here and expect me to listen to you after everything you've done. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered, stepping closer. I was confused, and I shook my head, taking a step back. You were confused? I repeated the words like they were a joke. Is that what you're going with? You think I'll just forget about everything because you were confused? Her eyes filled with tears again, and she took another step toward me. I can't lose you, Jason. I can't lose everything. Please, don't make this final. Please, just let me make it right. I felt nothing. She was desperate. She was drowning in her guilt, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Didn't feel sorry for her. She had made her choices. I wasn't going to let her drag me back into her mess. Olivia, I said, my voice colder now. I've made my decision. There's nothing left to fix. I am done. Her face twisted with pain, and I saw the guilt in her eyes, but there was no sympathy left in me. Please, she begged again. I can't live without you. You're everything to me. Please give me a chance to fix this. I met her eyes, feeling that familiar pit of emptiness in my stomach. It's too late. You've already made your choice. I'm not going to be your backup plan anymore. Her shoulders slumped, the fight leaving her body. I could see her fighting for control, fighting against the fact that she'd lost me. Yet I still didn't feel anything for her. You've lost me, Olivia, I said, the words leaving me with a finality I didn't know I had in me. She didn't speak again. What? She just turned, walking away, her steps slow, like she was carrying the weight of everything that had gone wrong. I watched her disappear down the hallway, feeling the door close on a part of my life I could never go back to. I never thought I'd feel relief after everything that happened, but when I finally stepped into my new apartment, it felt like a weight had been lifted. It wasn't much, just a small place in the city, but it was mine. No reminders of Olivia, no ghost of our past life together. I dropped my bag by the door, took a deep breath, and just stood there. The apartment was empty, but for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. I spent the next few days setting things up. I didn't have a lot of furniture, but I wasn't worried about that. I threw myself into work, focusing on the projects that had been neglected while I'd been drowning in the mess of my marriage. I needed to keep my mind occupied. The apartment was quiet, but I didn't mind it. The silence was better than the tension I'd lived with before. Still, there were moments when my thoughts drifted back to Olivia, what she'd done, to how she'd betrayed me. But I wouldn't let myself go there, not anymore. One afternoon, Adam called. He'd been checking in on me since the divorce, offering support, but I hadn't been in the mood to talk much. Hey man, how's the new place? Adam's voice was familiar, comforting. It's good, quiet, feels different, but in a good way. You need anything? He asked, his tone lighter than usual. Furniture, food, maybe someone to help you unpack? I chuckled. I'm good for now. I've got it all covered. It's small, but it's mine. I'm glad to hear that, he said, his voice softening. Look, I know you don't want to talk about it, but you got to know you're not alone in this, okay? I'm here. Emily's here too. Whatever you need. His words hit harder than I expected, a lump forming in my throat. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. Honestly, I don't think I've been this focused in months. I'm starting to feel like myself again. That's what I like to hear, he said, a smile in his voice. You deserve it. No, it's not easy, but you've got the right mindset. I smiled, though it felt a little hollow. Yeah, just taking it one day at a time, I guess. Good. Take your time. Just don't bury yourself in work, all right? You need to feel it, man. You can't push everything down forever. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I know. I'm working on it. We talked a little longer, mostly about the usual, nothing too deep, just the stuff that helped me forget for a little while. Before we hung up, Adam said, You sure you don't want me to swing by later? Grab a drink or something? I'm good, I said, leaning back against the couch. Maybe next time. The phone call left me feeling lighter. It's not much, but a little. It was easy to forget the people who cared when I was wrapped up in the chaos, but I knew I couldn't keep doing that. Later that evening, Emily texted, How's the new apartment? Is it feeling like home yet? I stared at the message for a while before typing back. It's quiet, but I'm getting there. It's different, but in a good way. She replied almost immediately. I'm glad you're doing okay. I know it's been tough, but you're strong, Jason. I'm here whenever you need to talk. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. I didn't want to admit it, but I felt like I needed to talk to someone. Thanks, Emily. I really do appreciate it. I think I'm starting to heal. Slowly, but it's happening. She sent back a heart emoji and a simple, "You've got this," sighed, setting the phone down. I was starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it wasn't just the silence in the apartment that was helping. It was the people who hadn't given up on me, Adam. Emily. They had been there for me when I couldn't be there for myself. The next few weeks went by in a blur. Work picked up, and I kept my focus on what I needed to do. I even found myself picking up my old hobbies again, things I hadn't done in years. Photography. Running. I had almost forgotten how much I enjoyed it until now. One Saturday morning, I decided to take a walk around the city, just to clear my head. It was a crisp day, the kind that made everything feel fresh and new. I walked down to a little cafe I used to go to when I was younger. I ordered a coffee and sat by the window, watching the world go by. It felt ... peaceful, and for the first time since everything started, I felt like I was finally breathing again. I knew I wasn't completely healed yet. I was getting there, slowly, one day at a time. I thought moving to Los Angeles would be a fresh start, but it wasn't as easy as I'd hoped. The city felt too big, too crowded, like I was just another face in a sea of strangers. But at least it was different. At least I didn't have to run into familiar places that reminded me of Olivia. The first few days were rough. I barely unpacked. I spent most of my time walking around, trying to get my bearings in a place that felt both exciting and overwhelming. I threw myself into my work, focusing on photography, something I hadn't had time for in years. I started taking photos of anything and everything: the streets, people, the landscapes, anything that could distract me from the mess that had been my life. I was sitting in a coffee shop one afternoon, editing some photos, when a voice interrupted my thoughts. "You're a photographer, right?" I looked up, a little startled. A woman stood by my table, a friendly smile on her face. She looked like she had just stepped out of a fashion magazine. Blonde hair, casual but stylish clothes. She seemed confident, like she belonged in this city. "Yeah," I said, unsure of where this was going. "I'm a photographer." "You into photography?" She laughed and pulled out a chair, sitting across from me without waiting for an invitation. "Not exactly," she said. "Odd. But I do know a good picture when I see one. You've got a great eye. What are you working on?" I glanced at my laptop screen, showing a photo I'd taken of the skyline at sunset. Just some city shots, trying to get my portfolio together. "Cool. I'm Sarah, by the way," she said, extending her hand. "Sarah Miller." I shook her hand, still unsure what this was about. "Jason, nice to meet you." We talked for a while. She seemed easy to talk to, light-hearted and open, not the kind of person who made everything feel heavy. I found myself laughing at her jokes, sharing a few stories of my own. Something about her made me feel comfortable, like I could just ... breathe. It was a nice change from the last few months of constant tension. "Look, I'm heading to a gallery opening tonight," she said after a while. "You should come. It'll be good for your portfolio, meet some people in the industry, maybe get a few contacts." Hesitated. The idea of putting myself out there in a new city, meeting new people, made me uneasy. I was still trying to find my footing here, still haunted by the shadow of my past life. But something about Sarah's enthusiasm made it hard to say no. "All right," I said, finally giving in. "I'll go, why not?" "Awesome," she said with a grin. "I'll text you the details. You won't regret it." Later that night, I found myself at a sleek art gallery in downtown Los Angeles. The lights were dimmed low, and the walls were lined with abstract art, people milling about with glasses of wine in hand. I didn't know anyone here, but Sarah was right there. It was a kind of energy in the air. People were talking, laughing, networking. I felt out of place, but determined to stick it out. I was scanning the room when my phone buzzed. I already knew who it was before I even checked. "Olivia, Jason, please. I can't keep doing this. I miss you. I know I messed up, but can we talk?" I read the message twice, my fingers hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to pick up the phone, hear her voice again, get lost in the same cycle of apologies and empty promises. But I couldn't go down that road again. Not now. I put the phone back in my pocket, forcing myself to focus on the present. I wasn't here for Olivia. I was here for me. Sarah found me by the drinks table, a drink in her hand, a big smile on her face. "You made it," she said, clearly pleased. "Yeah, I'm here," I replied, trying to act like I wasn't thinking about the message on my phone. "Thanks for the invite." "Of course," she said, motioning to the crowd. "Let's go meet some people." We spent the next couple of hours mingling. I started feeling more at ease as people complimented my work, asking questions about my style and where I'd been. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was actually being seen for something I cared about. It was nice. I excused myself from the group for a minute to check my phone, but the buzz of another text from Olivia still made me hesitate. I unlocked the screen, but this time I didn't read the message. Instead, I turned off my phone completely. It felt like a weight lifted. I didn't need her anymore. Didn't need any of it. I was building something new, and I didn't want anything to stop me. Sarah walked up to me holding a glass of wine. "Hey, you look a little distant. You okay?" "Yeah," I said, offering a smile that felt genuine for the first time in a while. Just ... taking it all in. "Good," she said with a wink. "So, how about we go grab some dinner? I know a great place." I nodded. "Sounds perfect." As we walked out of the gallery, the cool Los Angeles air hit me. I realized that, for the first time in a while, I wasn't running from anything. I wasn't hiding. I was starting over. It had been a few weeks since I moved to Los Angeles, and I thought the distance would make it easier. But Olivia wasn't letting go that easily. I'd been avoiding her calls, her messages, everything. But one morning, as I sat at my kitchen table, sipping my coffee, I saw her name flash on my phone screen. I hesitated for a moment, my fingers hovering over the screen. I had promised myself I wouldn't get pulled back into her web, but this time I answered. "Jason," Olivia's voice came through the phone, soft, almost broken. "Please, ... just let me talk." I stayed silent for a moment. Her voice still held some power over me, even though I knew what she'd done. "Olivia," I finally said, my tone neutral. "What is it? What could you possibly want to say to me after everything?" She sighed heavily. "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but I need you to know, Jason, that I am so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it, but I just... I can't keep going without telling you how sorry I am." I took a deep breath, leaning back in my chair. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt anymore either. The fire had burned out. All that was left was a quiet kind of emptiness. "You're right," I said, my voice steady. "You don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm not angry anymore, Olivia. I've let that go." There was a pause, and then she whispered, "I'm falling apart. Jason, everything in my life is falling apart because of what I did. I just... I need you to understand how much I regret it."
How much?
"I regret losing you." I closed my eyes, the weight of her words hitting me. She was falling apart, but that wasn't my problem anymore. "I don't need you to regret it, Olivia. What I need is for you to leave me out of it. I'm done being a part of your mess." Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to fix me, Jason. You were everything to me. And now, I have nothing." "I'm not your savior, Olivia," I said, shaking my head even though she couldn't see it. "You need to fix yourself. Can't keep depending on me to save you from your mistakes." Another long silence stretched between us, and I could almost hear her fighting back tears. But I wasn't going to let that sway me. I wasn't going to fall for the same tricks again. "Please," she said, her voice low. "I know I don't deserve another chance, but I can't lose you. I can't lose everything." I looked out the window, my eyes tracing the skyline of Los Angeles. The city felt vast, full of possibilities. It was a place where I could start over, where I could build a life without her hanging over me. "You already lost me," I said, the words coming out easier than I expected. "I'm not going to keep looking back. I'm learning how to move on, Olivia. I'm doing it for me." Her breath hitched, and I knew she was crying now. I could hear it in the way her voice wavered. "I'm so sorry. Never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to destroy what we had." I exhaled slowly, my heart heavy, but not for her. "What we had is gone, Olivia, and I don't want it back. I've moved on from you. From all of it." She was quiet for a moment, and I wondered if she was realizing how final it all was. How she had burned the bridge and there was no crossing back. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. And then there was the sound of her breath. Like she was about to say something more, but she didn't. "I don't need to hear it anymore," I said softly, my hand gripping the edge of the table. "You've said enough. I need to go." Before she could say another word, I hung up the phone, and the weight of the conversation hung in the air, but it didn't hurt like it used to. It didn't sting. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted peace. I stood up from the table and walked to the window, looking out at the city again. For the first time, I wasn't focused on what I'd lost. I was thinking about what I could gain. Olivia had made her choice, and I had made mine. I wasn't going to be the person I was before. I wasn't going to be the man who let her dictate my happiness. I was moving forward, and that was enough. I woke up to a message from Olivia again. "Jason, please. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" I didn't read the rest. I'd heard it all before. The apologies, the promises. But this time I didn't feel the familiar weight of anger or sorrow. There was nothing left to say. I had moved on. I was no longer the man who would have dropped everything to listen to her. I put my phone down, focusing on the sunlight streaming through the window of my new apartment. Los Angeles was still so different from New York. Everything here felt fresh, like I could breathe again. I'd been in the city for a month now, and I was slowly rebuilding my life. One of the first things I did after settling in was reconnect with Greg. He was an old mentor of mine from back in New York. He'd taught me more about photography than anyone else. And he always had this way of cutting through the noise and getting to the heart of things. "Jason," he said when I picked up the phone, his voice as steady as ever. "I was wondering when you'd call. How's the new life treating you?" "Better than I expected," I said, "but it's hard to shake off everything. The past still lingers." He was quiet for a moment. "That's normal. It'll take time. But you've got to embrace the change. This is your chance to build something new, to find out who you really are." "I've been trying," I said, leaning against the counter, feeling the weight of his words. "But sometimes it feels like I'm just running away from everything." "You're not running away, Jason. You're moving forward," Greg replied, his voice firm but kind. "Don't look back. The past is behind you for a reason." I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "Yeah, I guess you're right." Greg's words stuck with me for days. I started diving deeper into my photography again, throwing myself into projects I had put off for too long. I began experimenting with new techniques, new perspectives. The more I focused on my craft, the more I realized how much I had been holding myself back before. Not just with Olivia, but with everything in my life. I'd been stuck in a cycle of self-doubt, too afraid to fully embrace the person I wanted to be. One afternoon, I received a call from Sarah. She had become a good friend over the past month. I enjoyed spending time with her, someone who didn't know about my past, who only saw me for who I was now. "Hey, Jason, was thinking of checking out a new exhibit tonight. You in?" she asked, her voice upbeat. I smiled, glad for the distraction. "Sounds good. I could use a night out. Great, I'll pick you up at 7. I hung up, feeling lighter. It was the little things, the small moments of peace, that made the most difference. That evening, I walked through the art exhibit with Sarah, taking in the stunning pieces on the walls. It was the kind of thing I hadn't allowed myself to enjoy in a long time. Photography, art, it all felt connected, like I was finally seeing the world through new eyes. Sarah pointed out a few pieces, offering her thoughts on them, and for once, I wasn't thinking about the past. I was present. After the exhibit, we grabbed a coffee, sitting outside at a small cafe as the evening sky turned to dark. Sarah glanced at me, her smile warm. "You seem different." "In a good way." I chuckled, running a hand through my hair. "I guess I am. I've been focusing on myself lately. I think I finally accepted that I need to stop trying to fix everything and just let things be." "You're on the right track," she said, her voice soft. "It's all about learning to be okay with who you are now, not who you were." I thought about that. It wasn't just about moving on from Olivia. It was about moving on from the person I had been, someone who was so focused on the past that he couldn't see the future. Now, for the first time in a long time, I was focused on what was in front of me. Later that night, I got another message from Olivia. "Jason, I don't know how much more I can take. Dylan's been making things harder at work, and I don't know where else to turn." I stared at the message, feeling a flicker of something sympathy. Maybe, but not for her. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I was responsible for fixing her problems. It wasn't my life anymore. I put my phone down and exhaled, a quiet sense of relief washing over me. Olivia's life was falling apart, but that wasn't my problem. I had my own life to live now, and I wasn't going to let her pull me back into her chaos. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. I was in charge of my own life now. That was enough. The therapy sessions were something I never thought I'd need, but now I couldn't imagine not having them. The first time I sat down across from Marcus, I didn't know what to expect. But each week, I found myself peeling back layers of old wounds I hadn't even realized I was carrying. "So, Jason, how are you feeling today?" Marcus asked, his voice steady, not probing, just waiting for me to open up. I stared at the floor for a moment. "I'm okay, I guess. I'm getting there." He nodded, his eyes kind but direct. "Getting there is progress. Let's start there. Tell me more about what getting there looks like for you." I thought about it for a second, then shrugged. "I don't really know. I've just been keeping busy, focusing on my work, taking some pictures again, ... stuff like that. Trying to fill the space." "Filling the space with what?" Marcus asked, leaning forward slightly. "Stuff that doesn't remind me of her," I muttered, the bitterness creeping into my voice. "Everything I've been doing is to keep my mind off Olivia." "And how's that working?" he asked gently. I paused. "Not great. It's like I'm filling the space with distractions, but the hurt's still there." Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering my words. "I think you've been running from the pain, Jason, and you've been doing it for a long time. You can't outrun it forever." I hated that he was right, but he was. "So what do I do?" I asked, the frustration bubbling up. "How do I just ... let go of all of it?" "You don't have to forgive her," he said simply. "Forgiveness isn't what you need. What you need is to move on. To find peace, not with her, but with yourself. You can't change what happened, but you can decide how to let it affect you moving forward." I let out a breath, leaning back in my chair. I'd heard people say things like that before, but it hit differently coming from him. "I don't know if I can do that," I said, more to myself than to him. Marcus smiled, though it was understanding. "You don't have to do it all at once. It's a process. But you've already taken the first step. You're not looking to fix everything. You're learning how to let it go." That night, my phone buzzed again. I had been waiting for it, honestly. Another message from Olivia. I almost didn't want to open it, but I did anyway. "Jason, I can't do this anymore. Everything is falling apart. I know I've hurt you, and I can never fix it, but please, just talk to me one last time." I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I hadn't responded to any of her messages in weeks, and I wasn't about to start now. There was nothing left to say. I had no interest in reopening that chapter of my life. Started typing a response, then stopped. What would I even say to her? There was no point in dragging it out. I took a deep breath and typed something short. "I've moved on, Olivia. I'm done." I pressed send and didn't look back. The relief was instant, like a weight lifting off my chest. For the first time, I felt like I was truly free. The next day, I met Sarah for lunch at a small cafe. She'd become a good friend over the last few weeks, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations. She never pushed me to talk about Olivia, but she was always there when I needed someone to distract me from the thoughts that kept me up at night. "Hey," she said with a smile as she slid into the booth across from me. "You look lighter today." I couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, I guess you could say that. I finally did it." "Did what?" "I let go," I said, meeting her eyes. "I've been carrying around too much for too long, and I'm done." She raised an eyebrow. "What happened? Did you finally tell Olivia to leave you alone?" "Something like that," I said with a grin. I told her it was over. No more games, no more apologies. Sarah smiled back. "I'm proud of you. It's not easy to make that call." "No, it wasn't. But it was the right one," I said. "I've been waiting for closure, but I realized I don't need it from her. I just need to move on." "Well, you're doing great," she said, taking a sip of her coffee. "I think you're really starting to find yourself again." I nodded, feeling a small sense of pride in her words. It wasn't easy, but I was learning to heal, slowly but surely. "I think I'm ready for the next chapter," I said, looking out the window at the bustling city street. "Whatever comes next, I'm ready." For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. I didn't need Olivia's forgiveness or closure. I didn't need her to fix everything. I just needed to focus on myself, on moving forward. The flight to Chicago was short, but my mind was elsewhere. I hadn't even noticed the turbulence until the flight attendant made the announcement to fasten our seatbelts. My head was spinning, still trying to process everything that had happened over the past few months. I had come to Chicago for a photography exhibition, one I had worked on for weeks. I was excited, sure, but more than that, I was looking for a change of scenery, a new place to breathe. As soon as I arrived, I checked into my hotel and threw my bags on the bed. I had an hour before the event started, and I needed some time to collect my thoughts. I pulled out my phone to check messages, but there was nothing from Olivia. I hadn't heard from her in days. I thought I should feel something, but honestly, I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my camera and headed out for a walk around the city. The cold air was a shock to my system, but it felt refreshing. Chicago was busy, like any big city, but it felt different from Los Angeles. It was like I could finally breathe again, without the weight of everything holding me back. I passed by a park and stopped, looking at the scene in front of me. The way the sun was setting behind the skyline, the way the light hit the trees, it was perfect. I raised my camera and started taking shots, instinctively framing the shot in my mind. It was like I was seeing the world through a new lens. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of the moment. It was from Adam. "How's it going, man? You good?" I smiled, typing back quickly. "Yeah, just getting some fresh air. Heading to the exhibition soon." I stared at the screen for a moment longer, my finger hovering over the keyboard. I had almost texted Olivia back earlier, but something held me back. The part of me that still wondered if I had made the right decision, if I was being too harsh, too cold. But then I remembered all the times I'd asked myself that same question. All the times I had forgiven her and ended up right back in the same place. I wasn't going to make the same mistake again. I'll be okay. Yeah, we just need to keep moving forward. I put my phone away and walked toward the exhibition. The gallery was buzzing with energy when I got there, people chatting, admiring the work on display. My heart beat a little faster as I stepped in. This was my work, my journey. Every picture on those walls told a part of my story, part of my recovery. As I stood there looking at my photos, I realized how much I had changed. This wasn't just about photography anymore. It was about me finding myself again. Each shot, each moment I captured, represented a piece of my healing. "Jason Carter," a voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see a man standing next to me, his hand extended. "I'm Alex, the curator for tonight's exhibition. Your work is fantastic. I've been looking forward to meeting you." I shook his hand, trying to hide my surprise. "Thanks, it means a lot. I'm just glad to be here." We talked for a while about the exhibition, about my approach to photography, and as the conversation flowed, I found myself thinking less about the gallery and more about my journey. It wasn't just about the art. It was about how I had fought to get here, how I had survived. When Alex walked away to greet some other guests, I stepped back and looked at the photos one more time. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: pride. I had found something in myself that I had lost for so long. I had stopped focusing on what I had lost and started focusing on what I had gained. As the night went on, I chatted with a few other artists, exchanging stories and ideas. The more I talked, the more I realized how much I had grown. I was no longer the person I had been in New York, broken and lost. I was Jason Carter, a man who had found his way again. Later, I stepped outside for a moment of solitude. Chicago was quiet now, the night air cool and crisp. I looked up at the city skyline, feeling a wave of contentment wash over me. I had made it. I had rebuilt my life, one step at a time, and there was no turning back. For the first time, I wasn't running from anything. I wasn't trying to escape my past. I was embracing my future. And for the first time, I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. The morning after the exhibition, I woke up feeling lighter, but not quite whole. Chicago had a way of making everything seem possible, like I could finally start over. I still had a long way to go, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I spent the morning in a small cafe, my camera on the table as I scrolled through some photos from the night before. I could hear the buzz of conversation around me, but I was lost in my thoughts when my phone buzzed. I didn't need to look to know who it was, Olivia. Again, I had started to dread the sound of her name. This time I didn't feel the familiar rush of anger or confusion. I just felt nothing. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before I opened it. Jason, I need to know if you're okay. You've been so distant. I can't stop thinking about you. I put the phone down. This wasn't the first time she'd sent a message like this, and it wouldn't be the last. But I wasn't interested in hearing her out. I had already made up my mind. I didn't need her anymore. As I was sipping my coffee, my phone rang. It was from Adam. "Hey man," Adam's voice came through, cheerful as always. "How's the trip? You surviving Chicago?" Chuckled lightly, rubbing my eyes. "Yeah, I'm surviving. It's nice, actually. A lot quieter than LA. Good, man. I'm glad you're getting some space. How are you holding up? You've talked to Olivia yet?" I paused, the question hitting me harder than I expected. "I've heard from her," I said slowly, "but I'm not talking to her anymore." "You sure you're doing the right thing, man? I know it's tough, but sometimes it helps to talk it out." I exhaled sharply, leaning back in my chair. "I don't think talking to her is going to help. She's sorry, Adam, but it's too late for that. I've moved on." Adam was quiet for a moment, and I knew he was processing my words. "I get it," he said finally. "You've come a long way. You're doing what's best for you." "I know," I replied, my voice firm. "But it's not just about moving on from her. It's about moving on from the person I was with her. I need to be someone else now, someone stronger." "Yeah," Adam said, a hint of pride in his voice. "I think you're doing that? You're changing, Jason? You're not the same guy who left New York?" "I hope not," I said, looking out the window at the city streets. "I don't want to be that guy anymore. I want to be ... better. For me," Adam's tone softened. "You'll get there. Just remember, you don't have to do it all at once. One step at a time." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Yeah, one step at a time." After the call, I decided to head out for a walk through the city. I needed to clear my mind, to think about the progress I'd made. Walking around Chicago with its busy streets and towering buildings, I realized how much I'd been holding back. I'd spent so long trying to fix things with Olivia, trying to make her the person I thought she was. But I didn't need to do that anymore. I had to focus on me. I found a quiet park by the lake and sat on a bench looking out over the water. The wind was cool. The sound of it rustling through the trees was calming. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting myself just be. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was just ... at peace. I thought about what Greg had said in one of our last sessions about embracing change. I hadn't understood it at first, but now I did. Change was inevitable, and I couldn't keep fighting it. I had to accept it. I had to accept that I couldn't control everything. And most of all, I had to stop blaming myself for what happened with Olivia. She made her choices, and I made mine. I wasn't going to let her actions define who I was anymore. Later that evening, I found myself at another cafe, this time meeting a few fellow photographers. I wasn't sure if I was ready to dive back into the social scene, but part of me wanted to take the next step. I wasn't hiding from life anymore. I was embracing it. One of the photographers, a guy named Michael, was talking about his recent work when he turned to me. "Jason, I've seen some of your work. You've got an eye for detail. Ever thought about doing a gallery show?" I almost choked on my coffee, but the thought of it was exciting. A gallery show? That was a huge step, but it felt right. For the first time in a while, I was excited about the future, about what was next. "I've been thinking about it," I said, my voice steady. "I think it's time. It's time to stop running from the past and focus on what's ahead." Michael smiled, clearly impressed. "I think you'd do great. Let's make it happen." As I left the cafe later, the night air cool against my skin, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: hope. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel afraid of it. I was ready for whatever came next. It's funny how you can go so long without thinking about the future, and then suddenly it feels like you're standing at the edge of something new. That's how I felt when I met Catherine. We'd crossed paths a few times at local coffee shops, and she always had this energy about her that I couldn't ignore. She wasn't like the others I'd met in Chicago. She was kind, genuine, and the kind of person who could make you feel like everything was going to be okay. It started simple enough, just a few conversations, casual and easy. But I found myself looking forward to seeing her again. Slowly, I realized I was enjoying her company more than I had expected. I hadn't let anyone close in a long time, but with Catherine, it felt ... right. One evening, after a few weeks of casually hanging out, she invited me to a small dinner at her apartment. It was something simple, but I couldn't help the knot in my stomach. It was the first time I'd really allowed myself to let my guard down in a long time. "Hey, I'm glad you could make it," Catherine said with a smile when she opened the door. She was dressed casually but still looked effortlessly beautiful. I couldn't help but smile back. "Thanks for inviting me," I said, stepping inside. "You didn't have to go through all this trouble." "Trust me, this isn't a big deal," she said, leading me to the kitchen. "I just wanted to cook something nice for you. You know, I thought you might be getting tired of all that takeout you've been eating." I laughed, walking over to the small dining table she had set up. "You'd be surprised how easy it is to live off takeout when you're living alone." She smiled, setting a bowl of salad on the table. "I'm hoping you'll like what I made. It's nothing fancy, but I thought you might appreciate a homemade meal." I sat down, feeling a bit out of place. I had never been good at letting people do things for me. But as we ate, I realized it wasn't about the food or the setting. It was just about being there, in the moment, with someone who made me feel comfortable. "Your place is nice," I said, looking around. "It feels ... warm." "I'm glad you think so," she said, her eyes meeting mine for a second, before she looked back down at her plate. "I've always liked making a home feel like a sanctuary, you know?" "Yeah, I get that," I said, my voice quieter now. "It's nice to have a space that feels ... like yours. I've been trying to do that myself lately." Catherine paused, setting her fork down. "I can tell. I think you're doing a good job, Jason. You're starting to let go of things, aren't you?" I hesitated. She wasn't wrong. I think so. It's not easy, but I'm getting there. I'm learning that I don't have to keep holding on to everything that hurt me. "That's really brave," she said softly, her voice gentle but firm. "It's hard to move forward, but you're doing it. I can see it in the way you're living now." Her words hit me harder than I expected. For the first time in a long while, I realized I wasn't carrying around the weight of the past. I wasn't stuck in what had been. I was focused on what was happening now, with Catherine, with this new chapter of my life. The night went on, and we talked more about everything and nothing. It felt easy. It felt ... normal. She didn't ask me about Olivia, didn't pry into my past, and for that I was grateful. She let me open up at my own pace, and that was something I hadn't known I needed. As the evening came to a close, she walked me to the door. "Thanks for coming," she said, her smile still warm. "I really enjoyed tonight." "Me too," I said, smiling back. "I had a good time." She looked at me for a moment, as if unsure of something, then reached out to gently touch my arm. "I'm really glad you're here, Jason. I don't want you to feel like you have to rush into anything. I'm just happy you're taking things one step at a time." I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. Catherine wasn't trying to rush me, to force me into anything. She was just letting me be who I was. That felt ... good. "I think I'm finally ready to take that next step," I said, my voice steady now. "I'm not sure where it'll lead, but I'm willing to see where it goes." Catherine smiled softly. "Good. We'll take it one day at a time. No pressure." As I left her apartment and stepped out into the cool night air, I realized how far I'd come. I wasn't bitter or angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for closure or revenge. I was starting to build something new, something real. It had been months since I last heard from Olivia, but this time, the message caught me off guard. "Jason, please. I know I've hurt you, and I can never take it back, but I need to see you one last time. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen, the words staring back at me. I should have ignored it, just deleted it like all the others. But something inside me clicked, and before I could second-guess myself, I responded, "Fine, one last time." Didn't take long for her to reply. "Thank you. I'll come by your place. I didn't want this. I didn't need it, but I agreed anyway." I paced around my apartment, unsure of what this was really going to be. Part of me felt like I should be angry, but mostly, I just felt ... numb. Everything she said, every apology, felt like a broken record. I heard a knock on the door. My heart was steady as I opened it. There she was, standing on the other side, looking just like she always had. Beautiful, but now so far out of reach. "Jason," she said softly, her voice a little shaky. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." I stepped aside, letting her in without saying much. She looked around, as if taking in the space I'd made for myself here in Chicago. "Your place looks nice," she said, but it was just noise. Wasn't the first time I'd heard her say something like that. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the couch. I didn't want to waste time with pleasantries. She sat, glancing at me, then looking down at her hands in her lap. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," she began, "but I need you to know how deeply sorry I am. I've spent months thinking about what I did, about how much I hurt you. I've never felt so ashamed." I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. "Livia, I've heard this before, over and over, and it doesn't change anything." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Jason. I don't deserve it. But I need you to understand, I never meant for this to happen. I thought I could get away with it, and I was wrong. You were everything to me, and I ruined it. The anger I thought I'd feel was gone. There was nothing left but the emptiness she had left behind. I had moved on, and that realization hit me harder than I expected. "I don't need you to explain yourself anymore," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You've already explained it enough. I'm not angry with you, Olivia. I'm just done. I'm done with the lies, the cheating, the broken promises. I never wanted to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't think I'd lose you. I thought we could fix it, that it would be okay." I shook my head. "No, it was never going to be okay. Not after what you did." Her lips quivered, and she wiped at her eyes. "I know, I'm so sorry, Jason. I don't expect anything from you. I just needed to see you one last time, to tell you how sorry I am." I was silent for a moment, watching her. Part of me wanted to be angry. Part of me wanted to shout, to scream at her for everything she did to me. But the anger had faded. There was nothing left for me to hold on to. "You can't keep holding on to this, Olivia," I said quietly. "I've already let go. I've moved on from you. I'm better for it." She looked at me, searching my face, as if hoping to find something, some sign that I still cared. "Dick!" But there was nothing there. "I don't need you anymore," I said, the finality of it making my chest tighten. "I don't need you to make things right. I've already done that on my own." I understand," she said, her voice breaking. She stood up slowly, as if not wanting to leave. "I just wanted you to know. I'll always love you." I didn't respond right away. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. I had loved her once, but that love was gone. It was a memory, fading with each passing day. I stood up too, walking toward the door. "Goodbye, Olivia. I hope you find peace. But I'm not that person anymore." She nodded, tears still running down her face. Without another word, she turned and walked out the door. I stood there, listening to her footsteps fade away down the hallway. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a strange sense of relief. She was gone. That chapter of my life was closed. And for the first time, I realized how much better I was without her. Austin was everything I needed. The minute I arrived, I could feel the difference. The energy of the city was laid back, but full of life. There was a quiet buzz in the air, like everyone here was just doing their thing, and there was room for me to do the same. I had spent the last few months slowly building a life, but Austin felt like the place where I could truly start over. I wasn't running from anything anymore. I wasn't hiding from my past. I was embracing what was to come. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out to see a message from Adam. "How's Austin treating you? Are you settling in?" I smiled at the screen, typing back quickly. "Yeah, it's been good. Still getting used to the pace, but it feels right. I think this is where I'm supposed to be. Glad to hear it, man. Take your time and just focus on yourself. You deserve it." I stared at the screen for a moment, letting his words sink in. It felt good to have people who cared about me, people who believed in me, even when I wasn't sure about myself. I went for a walk through the city, letting the warm Texas air fill my lungs. Austin had a vibe to it. People were friendly, and the streets were lined with music, art, and the kind of energy that made you feel alive. I decided not to rush into anything. No more relationships, no more emotional baggage, just me, figuring things out. As I walked, my mind kept drifting to the decision I had made. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It wasn't about erasing the pain. It was about accepting it and letting it go. My phone buzzed again. This time it was from Catherine. "Hey, Jason, I've been thinking about you. I hope you're doing well. We should grab coffee sometime." I hesitated before responding. Catherine had been a good friend, someone I'd started to enjoy spending time with, but I wasn't ready for anything serious. I wasn't sure I was ready for anything at all. I'm doing well, Catherine. I've just been focusing on myself and taking things slow. Maybe coffee soon, though. I put the phone back in my pocket, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. I wasn't ready for a new relationship, but I wasn't completely closed off either. I had learned to be honest with myself about what I wanted. Right now, I needed peace. Later that evening, I met with Greg, my old mentor. He had moved to Austin a few years ago, and we kept in touch whenever I was in town. He'd been a steady presence in my life, someone who always seemed to know what to say when I was lost. Greg asked as we sat down at a small bar, drinks in hand. "Austin, treating you right?" "Yeah," I said, taking a sip of my drink. "I'm finally feeling like I belong here. It's different than LA, but I think I'm starting to understand what I need. I'm letting go of all the stuff I've been carrying for so long." Greg nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "That's good. You've come a long way. Sometimes, moving to a new place is like hitting the reset button, but you've still got to deal with what's inside. You can't just run away from it." I leaned back in my chair, thinking about his words. I think I've finally stopped running. I've spent so much time trying to fix things, trying to make sense of everything, but I'm realizing that I can't fix everything. I just have to accept it and move forward. Greg smiled, his expression kind, but knowing. "That's a big step, Jason. It's not easy, but it's the only way to find peace. You've got to stop trying to control everything and just let it be." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix things. I was just living, just being. "That's the hardest part," I said, letting out a sigh. "Learning to let go." "You'll get there," Greg said, raising his glass. "Just take it one day at a time. Don't rush it. Life has a way of unfolding when you least expect it." The next few weeks were a blur of settling into my new routine. I found a small photography studio and started focusing more on my work. I didn't have the pressure of a past life weighing me down anymore. There was something freeing about that. One afternoon, while I was setting up a shoot, I ran into Sarah at a cafe. She waved as she walked over, her smile wide as ever. "Hey you, how's everything going? Getting settled in?" I smiled back, feeling a warmth that had become familiar between us. "Yeah, things are good. I've been keeping busy." "You look like you're doing well," she said, sitting down with me. "I'm glad to see you so at peace." "I know it's been a journey." "It has," I agreed, sipping my coffee, "but I think I'm finally getting it. I'm not holding on to anything anymore. It's been a process, but I'm okay with it." She smiled softly. "It's really good to hear, Jason. I'm proud of you." I looked at her, and for the first time in a while, I felt a sense of contentment. I wasn't looking for anything to fill the space I'd been holding on to for so long. I was already whole. The sun was setting over Austin, casting long shadows on the sidewalk as I walked through the city. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so calm, so settled. I had spent months running from my past, running from the pain, from the memories of Olivia, but now I wasn't running anymore. I was here, in this city, building a life. My life. And for the first time, I felt like it was all coming together. Catherine was waiting for me at a cafe we'd started visiting together. We'd been spending more time together over the last few weeks, and each time I saw her, I felt something new, something I hadn't felt in a long time. She was easy to be with, not asking for anything, just accepting me as I was. "Hey," she said, smiling up at me when I walked in. She looked relaxed, like she had all the time in the world. Her energy had a way of making everything feel easy. "How was your day?" "Good," I said, sitting down across from her. "Busy. Got a few things lined up for the studio. But it's all starting to feel like it's falling into place." "That's great," she said, her smile warm. "I'm happy for you. You've been working hard." I nodded, feeling a sense of pride. "Yeah, I'm finally getting into a rhythm. It's been a slow climb, but I'm getting there." She leaned in a little, her eyes soft. "You deserve it. You've come so far, Jason. I can see it in you. You're not the same person you were when we first met." I looked down at the table for a moment, thinking about her words. She was right. I wasn't the same person. "You've helped," I said, meeting her eyes. "You've been patient with me, not pushing me for anything. It's been nice." She smiled again, reaching across the table and taking my hand. "I'm just happy you're happy." I squeezed her hand lightly, grateful for her understanding. I wasn't ready to dive into a serious relationship just yet, but with Catherine, there was no pressure, no expectations. It felt natural. "So what's next for you?" she asked, tilting her head. "Any big plans?" I thought about it for a second. The future. It wasn't something I'd allowed myself to think about in a long time. But now, it felt possible. "I'm thinking about doing a solo exhibit," I said, my voice steady but excited. "I've been working on a few new projects, and I think it's time to show them off. It's a big step, but I'm ready for it." Her eyes lit up. "That's amazing, Jason. I knew you'd get there. You've always had the talent." I smiled, feeling a burst of warmth. "Thanks. It's been a long time coming." We talked for a while longer, but my mind kept drifting back to the idea of the exhibit. I wasn't just doing it for the recognition anymore. I was doing it for me, to prove to myself that I had moved on, that I had healed. Later that night, after we said our goodbyes, I walked back to my apartment, my thoughts still racing. It wasn't just the exhibit or the work I was doing. It was everything. The feeling of independence, the freedom to live my life on my terms, without being tied to anyone or anything that had held me back. I opened the door to my apartment, letting the silence wash over me. For the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like space for me to breathe, to grow. I dropped my keys on the counter, then went to the window, looking out over the city. I thought about the past, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the pain, but none of it felt as heavy anymore. It was part of me, yes, but it didn't define me. I was defining myself now. I pulled out my phone and checked a message from Adam. "How's everything going? Are you settling in okay?" I typed back quickly. "Yeah, everything's good. I'm getting into the swing of things. It feels like the right place to be." "That's awesome, man. I'm proud of you." I smiled at the message, feeling a sense of pride in myself too. For once I wasn't just surviving, I was living. The doorbell rang suddenly, breaking my thoughts. I walked to the door, a little confused. When I opened it, Catherine was standing there, a surprised smile on her face. "Did I forget something?" she asked, looking at me curiously. I shook my head, laughing. "No, just wasn't expecting you." She stepped inside, her eyes soft. "I wanted to see you again, and I wanted to see where you're at with everything. I know it's still new, but I really like where this is going, Jason." Birds hung in the air, and for the first time in a long while, I realized that I was ready for something new, something real. No more baggage, no more doubts. No, just me, moving forward. "I think I'm ready too," I said, stepping closer to her. "I've been holding back for a long time, but I don't want to anymore. I want to see where this goes to." She smiled, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of everything I had left behind finally lift. I was no longer stuck in the past. I was ready for the future.